All right, well, welcome to the show, Rosie. How are you?
Good. Thanks
Good.
for having me.
Yeah, I know. It's exciting. So a little bit, obviously wanted to get to know, I wanted to get to know some of the people that are working at the dealership. Like I had whiskers on. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
You guys, this dealership has been really great for me and, having my studio here and bringing guests in. And what do you think about that? Let me ask you something. This is actually kind of funny. I was thinking about it. I'm like, is it cool like when I have guests come in and I introduce them to everybody, or is it kind of like, whatever?
I like it personally.
Okay.
I think it's cool just to kind of like integrate that whole community and
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. But sometimes I'm like very self-conscious. I'm like, they don't even care. You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing this for?
No, we need some entertainment.
True.
Yeah.
Right. I've had some characters. I mean, not so much here. Like I just had a really good guest down at another studio, and I'm like, damn, that would have been fun to bring up here because they're just loud.
Yeah.
But
no, it keeps it fun.
Yeah. So like my podcast is recovery industry based, so it's, guests like yourself coming on and the things that you do in the industry. And then there's some wild stories that I have of people using drugs and the lengths that they went to get those drugs and the crazy stories, Do you have any cool stories like that?
I've got some stories.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? This is story time. This is Rosie's story time.
Yay.
Yeah. This is your show right now.
Yeah. Oh, you want to go right into?
Yeah,
we're going right into the crazy
hold on.
stories.
All right, hold on. I already prepped you. I'm sorry. Where are you from?
Mostly like Orange County, LA, and then I live out here now, obviously. But
what was it like? How do you like living in Temecula? Because I lived here myself too, but I lived in the era of like 2000s, like Crooked Hat Crew. You know what I mean? Like Metal Militia.
Well, so did I.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm a lot older than I look.
Really? All right. Well, good for you. Stay up, girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was about to card your ass. You know?
I hated it when I lived out here the first time. I actually lived out here like in my early 20s, and I thought it was so boring because I had just moved from Hollywood, and I was
wow.
So I was in that whole like club scene and all that, and I came down here and I was like, there's nothing to do. I'm so bored. Like, there's nowhere to party.
Yeah.
So I
going to
hated
Stampede, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm like, I don't remember if Stampede was even there.
No.
There used to be this old kind of like dive bar thing over by where like the UPS and stuff is now. Mm-hmm. Used to go in there, but anyway, but now I'm old and I'm boring and I don't do anything. So I'm like, oh, it's super affordable. Schools are good. And I'm like, now I love it. You know, it's like super
You have
peaceful.
kids?
Yeah, I have two.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Boy and girl?
Yep.
Not perfect.
Yeah.
Boom. Done.
Yeah, exactly.
How old are they?
11 and 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
You definitely don't look your age, friend.
That age thing kicks in.
Good job. Yeah, I know. I've been to the Stampede a few times. There's a couple places, but I agree. Like when I moved up here too, I was like, damn. I remember my dad telling me, he's like, so I grew up in San Diego. So did he, Pacific Beach area, right? And there's a town above Pacific Beach called Claremont. And he was like, man, this is just like that. Like, how, when I was a kid too, and it's wild to see how big this area is now.
Oh, yeah.
It's really big.
Yeah, prices have really changed too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's everywhere. You can't get away from it. It's a little bit cheaper than San Diego, Orange County, LA, but still. Yeah. But there's a place called Hard Hats up here. Do you ever heard of that place? Mm-mm. So it was like 4 construction people to go have a beer after work, and it was like chicks in bikinis, and they were wearing like hard hats and like construction outfits.
It's kind of about what it sounds like it would be like.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's really popular.
Like a visual.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was a pretty popular place.
Or it sounds kind of Chippendales-y.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I mean, I never been there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just heard about it allegedly. Yeah, I got into some trouble up here too, though. I've been to the Southwest a few times. Had a DUI. It was not that great. I've been really reckless.
Yeah.
Have you had a DUI?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. It was a good time. Good time.
Second time.
No, I said it was a good time.
Oh, good time.
No, I learned the first time.
Oh, me.
You didn't do it.
Nah.
Yeah.
Took me a minute.
Yeah. I mean, it was a doozy, but
yeah. Did you have to go to Southwest too?
No.
Or was this in LA?
No, it was in Huntington. Yeah. So they actually gave me a felony DUI because I rolled my car 500 feet down PCH So
Like
luckily I didn't
literally
fucking
rolled?
kill myself. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. And then I did like 3 years formal, and but
It
I
sucks.
actually, by the time they had finally filed my case, I was actually pregnant with my daughter. And so I somehow got away with only having to do community service.
That's perfect.
Well, yeah. And then the place that I went to was like an Alano club. And so I pretty much would just sit there and like just watch my iPad and
Yeah, of
didn't
course.
really do shit.
Right,
The
right.
guy's like, well, you're pregnant. Like, what am I going to make you do? You
Right.
know, I'm like ready to freaking blow up,
Yeah.
you know?
You're like, thank God I'm having a baby.
Yeah. So, like, in that sense, I kind of got lucky. But I mean, nobody wants to be like pregnant doing fucking
No.
community service.
No.
Like, on a DUI.
No, could you imagine seeing a pregnant woman on the side of the freeway,
Dude,
like fucking arched up, picking
my
up trash?
God, ridiculous.
The fact that
so-
somebody would probably do it, though, you know what I mean? Like, no, you did you did it.
I'm sure there's plenty out
Yeah.
there. Yeah. For
You rolled
sure.
your car 5 times,
500 feet.
500 feet.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, thank God you had your seatbelt on, because if you didn't, you'd probably fly off that son
It
of a
was
bitch.
actually really gnarly because when it happened, I don't even know what happened. Like, I still don't even
Right,
know what
blacked out.
happened. Well, yeah, I got knocked unconscious. And so, and then when I woke up, there was another car that was involved. And so technically there's like victims. And so they can't give you certain information because of that. And so I just remember like sitting in my house for like a month straight, just thinking like, what the fuck did I do? Like, I don't even
Right.
know. Like, and no one's telling me. I'm like, am I gonna like catch a case or like some
Right.
crazy shit or like,
Right.
it was so fucking stressful. And like, I think it just like because of that and like all of that stress and anxiety and just like how bad it could have been, I was like, I'm never fucking doing this again. Like, I mean, I still went out and drank and did fucking dumb shit, but I
Sure.
wasn't like, you know,
A little bit smarter about what you did.
oh well, yeah. But
I mean, honestly, too, like when you were around the same age, and it's like, there wasn't Uber. I mean, there was taxis, but I mean,
Yeah.
around here and probably other places, like, I don't know. I never even thought of hit a taxi, you know. When you're
Yeah.
intoxicated, I just do dumb shit, you know.
well, yeah.
I've learned the hard way, you know. Like, it took me a long time to get clean. Like, I'm about to come up on 10 years, and it's like, dude, it took so long. I was 34 years old when I got clean, and it was
Yeah.
a lot of, you know, going to jail, coming out of jail, going back, and just like a lot of like dumb stuff too. Like, I just refused to do normal human being things. Like,
Yeah.
my license is
Not
suspended.
exciting enough.
Yeah, my license is not, it's suspended. So I'm still going to drive it. Then I get pulled over, and then I get impounded. Then I go to jail for 2 days. It was just fucking chaos, you know,
Yeah.
complete.
Well, and I think when you get away with something for so long, you're like, oh yeah, you're just on this streak of like, I'm invincible, and you know,
Yeah.
and eventually it does catch up to you
All the
you
time.
know?
All the time.
Every
Yeah,
time.
like, every time. It's like,
yeah, it's only a
there's-
matter of time.
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a stopwatch that says, yeah, you're about
Yeah.
due, motherfucker.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I did it for years. Like I said, I was, you know, partying up in Hollywood, and then I would drive down to Orange County and then go hang out with my friends in Orange County at 2 a.m. And I was,
All right.
you know,
When
what I
you
mean?
say
I don't-
partying in Hollywood, like what are that, like rave stuff or?
No, I just well, obviously like I'm older, so when I was living up there, a lot of my friends were like musicians or like producers, managers, so I was just kind of in that whole little like club scene when it was first kind of becoming like a bigger thing.
Right.
So it was like, you know, every night of the week was, you know, like Monday nights were Dre's, and then like Wednesday nights was Supper Club, and like every night
Wow.
was like a different, and it was just constant like
Partying.
and I think that's kind of how it all started, honestly, because I never was like a big drinker growing up. Like, I didn't really party a lot in high school. I was just like a little stoner kid in high school, same in college. And it wasn't till like, yeah, probably like I don't know, like early to mid 20s that I like really started and I think it was just the constant back to back, like whatever,
Yeah, it's almost like
Just-
you're like forcing it, you know?
created my own problem.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, what were you doing in Hollywood? Like, what was the goal there? Do you want to be a movie star or famous person, or what do you want to do?
No, I mean, I was doing like extra work, and I was doing videos with like College Humor and stuff like that at the time.
So you're
and
doing it, you're doing it.
Yeah, I actually, so I was in Orange County, and I was living with my ex-boyfriend. We were actually dating throughout like high school, and I met this girl that I was going to move in with, and she had invited me out one night up there with some guy that she was friends with who was like a promoter or whatever. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, yeah, like I want to go. And that was kind of like my first little like taste of that. And then it was just kind of like all downhill from there, honestly. Like,
really?
And that's kind of like how
you
it all
clearly
started.
remember. Yeah, you clearly remember the point of like, oh shit.
Yeah. So
it's always somebody too. It's always a girl. It's always a girl.
Oh yeah. It's always some random chick that you didn't need to be talking to. That just ruins your life, you know?
Yeah, trust me, I know, dude. It's all good.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it all started. And then obviously that like progressed into me moving up there. And then I was like living with girlfriends of mine and whatever. And I really didn't have much going on. I was just like, you know.
Was it fun?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a blast.
Until, what did it ever become like not fun to where you're like, oh, fuck, I need to get out of here? Or?
Well, I think when you're doing dumb shit and you feel like shit and you're like, what am I doing? And you have nothing really going on. And you're like, okay, like I was on a path and now my life is not progressing in the way that I wanted it to. And you kind of just start second guessing everything. And then in those moments, it's not fun at all. And you're like, well, fuck, I wish I was doing something else.
Yeah, right. Why am I here?
Yeah.
Why the fuck am I here?
No, literally.
when you lived here the first time in Temecula area, what was that? Were you going to school here or you decided to?
No, so two of my friends that I had met when I was living in LA, we were all sharing like a little studio apartment up in K-Town, and they were from out here. And we all had this like wild hair up our ass to like get an apartment in Temecula. I don't know. We just all wanted to get out of LA. And so we moved down here and then basically just brought the party down here.
Literally.
And nothing really changed, to be honest. So
right. Yeah. Just go to the wineries and stuff and hang out?
Or just our apartment. Yeah. Party at our house, you know.
You ever go to Hard Hats? No.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Temecula is what I love about Temecula is like it's so family oriented. Yeah. Like we were making a joke the other day, and it was like me and Taylor were up here and doing a show, and we had some lunch at that barbecue spot down the street, and like 2 motorcycle cops were like waving at us, and we're like, "What the fuck is that?" You know what I mean? Like that shit don't happen anywhere else, dude. Like even the cops were waving at you. You know? Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah, it's so mellow down here.
It really is. Yeah, I mean, it's such a big city now, man, too.
Yeah.
So, a little off topic, and I just thought about this, so I wanted to promote the next show that we're going to be doing. It's February 15th at Blackmore Ranch. Have you heard about that yet?
Yeah.
Are you going?
I'll be here, but I know we have something going on after that, so I'll be here.
Right.
For that, obviously.
Yeah, so we're doing a bike night here afterwards. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great time. I thought that you were going to go there, but maybe something changed. We had a meeting last week, but I'm excited. It's going to be pretty cool. So anybody that's listening that has or wants a Pan Am, come and ride on a track for free. It's a free show. It's a free event, excuse me. And even if you don't have a Pan Am, if you just ride a Harley or a street bike or whatever the fuck, if you want to hop on a track with a bike, how sick is that?
Yeah.
Are you going to do it? You should go. If you go, you should do it. Just try it.
Ride a Pan Am?
Fuck yeah.
Oh.
Fuck yeah.
I don't know if I'm there yet.
Yeah, you'll be all right. No problem. You do want to get a motorcycle though, right?
Yeah, at some point.
You're going to get your license?
Yeah.
Do it legitimate?
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, I didn't do that too.
Yeah.
I've had a few bikes impounded myself. Sucks.
Yeah.
Are you nervous to take the test?
No. No. I already did my like course or whatever, so that's just the written part.
Right.
I feel like I'm pretty good at that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Not all of us are.
Yeah.
You know? You got a cheat sheet for some people? They might want it. You know what I mean?
No,
we can make you a little bit of cash.
No, I just have good memory.
Really?
Yeah, which is ironic because
God, that's the worst fucking part of it. I forgot everything. I think everyone should have fucking name tags too, because I will forget somebody's name so fast. I feel awful for doing it too.
I do the same thing.
Oh, it's so horrible.
I'll meet a customer here and like 2 seconds later I'm like, oh.
God, man, I wish my memory was good. Like I can remember a lot of bad shit that happened, but like good stuff or meeting people and God, man, like going to events, I felt so awful. Like people were like, dude, we've met like 5 times. I'm like, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Kind of old and retarded, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I'll remember your face, but I have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you doing here at the dealership?
So I'm a fit specialist, and then I help with some of like the marketing stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right up your alley.
Yep.
So you've done marketing before
Yeah.
besides for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So with the stuff that I see on your Instagram, you're basically, what are you, a fucking model? Goddamn supermodel?
Essentially. Well, I don't know about supermodel.
Well, you're super here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started out. It's probably been like almost 11 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started doing it, it was like right after I'd had my son, and I kind of was just doing it just like for the hell of it.
Sure.
No particular like goal in mind at the time. And it wasn't really like a big thing back then. Now it's like everyone and their mom is a freaking model or an Instagram model or
it's
whatever.
The phones, you know?
Yeah. So back then it was a lot more like selective. It was very limited. There wasn't a lot of people like doing that stuff. And I got tied into like the tattoo industry, and that's kind of how it all started. And I was working with like Sullen and stuff like that. And then that transitioned into the vape industry. That was when like the vape industry had first started taking off, like back with like box mods and all that shit. And so I was working with like different brands in the vape industry. And then I was like one of the first models for one of like the bigger like juice companies. And so I was like doing conventions and stuff like that.
What kind of juice?
Like for the mods and stuff.
Oh, for the mods.
Yeah,
you know what's so crazy is I've had a few people on the show, but one guy in particularly, like he was the whole vape thing, but he came also from like the porn industry.
Okay.
But he was saying like a lot of people were doing that because it's just like another form of a hustle too, you know?
Yeah.
Like I know people now because you can't get flavored stuff, right? And they're out hustling the shit and going elsewhere out of state and bringing it in. Like,
well, that's trippy.
It's so
I
fucking.
don't know anybody still uses those things.
So you never experienced that? We're like, oh yeah, well I came from the porn industry too.
No,
okay, just
no,
me. Just
no.
the LFG show finds people.
I know people who do porn
for sure
came from the porn industry, but yeah. So I don't know, and then it just kind of like grew into different things.
Yeah.
Over the years, but
yeah. Solon, they seem like they are a pretty active brand. You know, like there's have tons and tons of content and other people that promote their page and their clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people you see on Instagram, you know, like models, even like dudes.
Yeah.
Where they're out of Orange County or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you still work with them or no?
Yeah. So they're out of Los Alamitos.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know where it's at. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Orange County area or no? Or is that LA?
It's like Seal Beach.
Okay.
Yeah. So like kind of border Long Beach
Right.
ish.
So do you do stuff for yourself now or do you still do brands? Like if LFG wanted you to model, you would have to, set up a booking and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Photographer.
No, yeah, I still do stuff like with different brands and things like that. Obviously a lot of my time is focused here. So
for sure.
Yeah. Everything kind of like I started shooting with bikes like years ago, but then it kind of like really started to more heavily kind of turn into that over the last like year. Mm-hmm. Just getting involved with different brands and like events and things like that.
Yeah.
But
well, I think that I think dealerships need people like you, that are really going to promote this brand, and how to model on a motorcycle and do that. That's just going to attract, male or female riders because girls go like, oh, she's pretty. That bike's cool, whatever,
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty cool thing. So when you say you're a fit person, so do you want to be, what is that? Explain that to me.
I mean, essentially my job is to help you find the right bike for you.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to go into sales though or anything?
Not originally. It wasn't. It wasn't originally what I came in for, and it just kind of turned into that.
Sure.
So yeah.
I think if you can have a conversation with people, you can sell some stuff. And if you know a little bit about motorcycles, you'll be fine. You know?
Yeah. It's just funny how it has like somehow progressed into this, and it's just like one of those things where it's just always like funny where life takes you sometimes.
Sure.
You know?
For sure.
And you're like, whoa, like how did I get here?
Right,
you know?
right.
So it's kind of like a trip sometimes, but yeah, but it's fun. I love it. Like I have so much fun, and I'm like, well, at least if I'm going to be somewhere, like I could be sitting in a cubicle staring at a computer all day, you know? So it's like, at least it's something I get to have fun. And like, I love talking to people and meeting new people. And so.
Yeah. I mean, so with this organization too, they have so many dealerships. Like it would be smart for them to be like, hey, we're going to go to Reno or something and do some stuff up there. I don't know. That's how my mind works. I'm like, what's best? Like talk about fitting, you know, like let me fit. Let's do some shit, you know?
Yeah.
Let's drive it home. I know compared to like where you're at in LA and Hollywood and then coming back to Temecula and then you find yourself here, like, I don't know. I think it's really neat and cool, but I'm sure you're like, man, I didn't expect this, right?
No, but that's what I mean though. It's like weird how it just kind of all came full circle.
Right.
You know? Or just like the little, well, it was actually funny because I was asked to work, some other event and I didn't really want to go. And I was like, whatever, I guess I'll just do it, you know? And that's how I ended up getting linked up with Makana, which is how I ended up coming in here. And so it's like those little things that you don't want to do all the time sometimes lead to like some of the best things if you just like force yourself to just go and do it, you know?
Right.
And so it all, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like worked out.
It's like what like once it's almost like we like kind of just give up the power, and like fuck, whatever, I'll do it. Then I know exactly what you mean. I mean, a lot of doors have opened for me that way too. Yeah, it's so funny to think about that, like events, right? Like fuck, I don't want to go and do that. Then it's like boom, boom, boom. You start meeting like the right people.
Yeah,
it's to me, it's I always say like God or odd. You know what I mean? Like there's always something that's like looking out for me and I don't even know it, I mean? And then shit just works out.
Yeah.
It's crazy because next month, my clothing brand will be 5 years and I'm like, fucking, that's crazy to think about, like how it started and where we're at now and what we're doing, and I would have never thought in a million years, you know what I mean? I thought it was just like, we're going to sell some t-shirts to the homies and ride our motorcycles and, and then all this other shit transpired of doing it,
Well, it's like the whole like one day at a time concept, right?
Boom, nailed it.
So you're just like, okay, well, we get so caught up in like just the constant like future tripping on stuff, and it's like, okay, well, just do the one day at a time.
Sure.
And then eventually, like, boom, you're like, oh shit, like all this time's passed,
Yeah.
You never would have thought of.
Never.
But
yeah, not in a million years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, man. So you have an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old, you say? That's awesome. Isn't being a parent like just the coolest fucking thing ever?
I love it.
It's so hard though, too.
Yeah.
Like
well, what's that saying? It's like the hardest, best job you'll ever do, or something like that.
Sure.
Like, yeah.
Are you done having kids? What do you think? Tapped out? You're done?
I don't know.
How do you like the age difference too? I only ask because I have my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I love it, but then sometimes it is rough just because, like, well, my son is the older one, and obviously he's significantly older. So then sometimes it's just them just, like, bickering.
They're not.
And I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose it.
Yeah.
But it's nice because, obviously, he is old enough where he can help out a lot. And
sure.
So
he's a babysitter.
Yeah, built-in babysitter.
Yeah, built-in
at 11
babysitter.
years old.
Yeah, it's all right. I was doing that too.
Yeah, well, he thinks he's an adult now because he uses deodorant and like.
Yeah, he's starting to puberty.
Oh yeah, he's like, oh mom, my deodorant. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I need some razors, mom. I need to start shaving this.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my deodorant right here. I'm like, okay, we got it. You got deodorant.
Don't touch it, mom.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so it's interesting to watch the like age transitions and like.
Yeah. I think having kids is like the best thing that I've ever done in my entire life. Yeah. I have 2 little kids and my son just broke his arm. Have your kids broken any bones?
No.
Bro, it's the worst.
No, not yet.
Like, I have never felt that sort of pain in my life.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just telling my wife, because I put him up in his car seat or whatever, and I was looking at his cast, and I'm like, I will never forget when I was in the back seat with him when he broke it, and he was like holding it. It's just so crazy for me to think about, like, such a small child too, like understanding and comprehending. I'm just like, you're supposed to be a baby, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like him holding where it was broken, and you know, he was like going through the motions of like, it wasn't in pain and then it was in pain, you know? And anyways, I was just like, I'll never forget me sitting in the back of the truck with him and like him looking at me and just like he's not able to say like, I broke my fucking arm, Dad, you know?
Yeah.
It was horrible. I had to hold him down while they like placed his arm and put the cast back on. And I'm like, dude, being a parent is so fucking ghetto. Like, fuck this shit, bro. I was like, I'm fucking over this. Yeah. But like having his son, which you could probably relate, they're just reckless as fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this kid is already back on his strider, and I'm like, dude, he's going to be in so many casts.
See, that's my daughter. She's like, my son's more like the like bookworm science, or he just started getting like super into like football and stuff, but my daughter's more like the adrenaline junkie. She's like a little mini me. She's like a little tomboy. So like on the outside, she like loves her little dresses and her like girly stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, she like rips around on her little Stasic, and she's like, I want to ride dirt bikes. And she's like, when I'm 7, can I go skydiving? And I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, she's nuts. So I'm like, yeah, they're like,
she wants to skydive?
opposite. Yeah, she's
wild.
She's insane, yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. I still won't do that shit.
That one.
The fuck wants to jump? Do you tell her, like, why are we jumping out of a perfectly good airplane? Yeah, what?
I don't know.
Are they like gamers? Do they play video games and shit?
My son's like more into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, see, that's okay then. He's not going to get in trouble.
All the kids are on like Roblox now or whatever it is.
What's that?
It's like, I don't even know.
Explain that to me.
It's like some platform, I think, that, I mean, I could be totally getting this wrong, but it has all these like little like mini games within it. So there's all these like different.
It's a new Pokemon.
No.
No? Okay.
No, it's like, I don't even know.
Well, I think though, having a son, like I think about this too. I'm like, here's the kid with the broken arm that's probably going to be reckless as fuck.
Yeah.
You know, or on the opposite side, having the son that's like, you know, the bookworm and like just going to stay inside. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know which one, you know? I mean, both are fine, but I guess, you know, I'm not going to have to worry so much if he's just inside reading books and becoming, you know, extremely wealthy because he's going to become a doctor or something, not some kid like me. You know what I mean? I'm like, fuck, son, you're going to have a rough life, dude.
Well, it's tough because with my son, his dad is an addict. And so, and his family has like a history of that. So that's always kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm kind of glad that he is like that, because I'm like, well, hell, between me and your dad, I'm like, God only knows, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, like in a weird way, but yeah, so.
I know that's, so my, like, not to think negatively, but like my thought would be like, man, I need to have a conversation with him still to like let him know about that, because you know, you stay secluded in the house, and then all of a sudden, even like with you in your situation, like you didn't really party too much, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, it happened. Yeah. And luckily you were able to like reel it back. Like we didn't really,
I kind of like this.
Yeah. Like we didn't get into it, but it's like, I don't feel that you were, you know, a junkie and on the streets, right? But like there was an issue and like you figured it out. But for some, like that is the alternative, right? They're fucked. You know what I mean?
So it's cool because his dad and his wife, they actually work in like sober livings and things like that. So he's been exposed to a lot of that stuff already. And so it's very much like a part of his life, learning about like active recovery and things like that.
So he's working a program and all that stuff, and you're.
Oh, I was talking about my son.
Oh, your son. Yeah. Oh no, but your son's dad is he? Yeah. But he's like he's in the.
So it's great for my son, especially at that age, like at 11, because it's like now you're at that stage where you're kind of, and especially like with kids now. I mean, I don't know, like obviously we grew up in a different time, but I'm like, I just feel like kids now are just exposed to so much more, like more quickly. And so it's kind of nice that he does get to like hear about all of those things and is around so much of that and so many people who are actively sober.
Yeah.
Because he's just constantly seeing and hearing about the consequences of it.
Yes.
And plus all the positives of it. So,
but the consequences are like the number one thing.
Yeah.
Like really they
Yeah.
are, because
Yeah.
it's like,
well, we like to learn the hard way, you know? So,
totally.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I know I had people in my life that were, you know, hey, what the fuck are you doing? But I was like so far gone to where it was like too late. But I talked to a lot of people to where they're like, no, I had so and so, and like they told me, you know, like this is what I shouldn't do, and I never have done it. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wish I had that,
like,
or
how does that
remembered.
feel? Yeah.
Yeah, or like I remembered something like that. So it's good. That's a positive thing for your son, just to not go down some road, especially if his dad's like, hey, you know what I mean? It's gonna be rough too, man.
Yeah.
Really rough.
Yeah.
You guys get along, you and your ex?
Oh yeah. I
That's
mean, we
cool.
co-parent great. So
See,
it's
that's
nice.
so
I mean,
beautiful.
it wasn't always like that though. Right. I mean, I had my son when I was like 24, just before I turned 25. And at that time I was in like my like partying phase and whatnot. And so it's kind of interesting because I'm like, well, if I feel like my kids like saved my life, like in a way, especially my son, just because obviously he was my first one. But
Sure.
I'm like, if I didn't have him, because I raised him by myself for so many years because his dad was not sober for a long time. And so it really like forced me to have to like get my shit together and like have something bigger than myself to have to like focus on and, you know.
Absolutely. 24 too, you're still a kid.
Oh, you're a baby. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I was
Yeah.
23, so
Yeah. So he grew up like my little sidekick.
For
you
sure.
know? Like, but yeah.
That's good though, because some people don't.
Yeah.
Rosie, they're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna keep doing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've heard so many awful stories. Women, you know, in the rooms of recovery have it the worst too. You know, it's really the awful stories that you hear of, like going to any length to do whatever for drugs or alcohol, and you know, I mean, put into like really sticky situations and like roofie. I just heard this girl share her story the other day. She just like was roofied and like got totally taken advantage of, and like waking up in the middle of it. That must be like the most traumatic thing for anybody to go through.
Yeah.
It's like being a prisoner.
Yeah.
You know, or kidnapped or something fucking wild, you know?
Yeah.
But like kids, yeah, like you're saying, like it's so funny too. Like I'm like, ha ha. I used to like make fun of my friends, you know what I mean? In my own head, like I'm never gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like I'm never gonna allow them to watch TV while we're eating dinner. You know, I never had to. And now I'm like, the moment there's like a peep, I'm like, here you go. Like fucking, you know, it's funny. Like for me, it was like, all these things like, oh, I'm never going to do this and I'm not going to be like that. Then you never know until you're there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you never know until you're a parent and like how you want to parent. And there's really no wrong way to do it. You know what I mean? If you're not being abusive, and my life was pretty rough, you know? So I know what not to do.
Well, then you think about all the hell you like put your own parents through and like just all the chaos, and you're just like, or even just as a parent, just putting into perspective, thinking about like, oh my God, like what if it was my kid that was doing these things, and you're just like, oh, like that feeling, it's terrible.
So when I asked you if you're all done, you didn't say no. You're kind of like,
I mean, I don't know at this point in my life, just because I obviously had my first kid at a really young age. And so I feel like just in the struggle of raising him by myself for so long, there was so many things that I had to sacrifice in my life. And so I'm like, now I didn't have my daughter till I was 30, but I'm like, now I'm at a stage in my life where I'm like, okay, both of my kids are in school and I can like focus on the things that I want to do. And like, you know, like I have my job and I'm in school and trying to progress my life. So I'm like, God, like would I really want to start all over and like give up all of those things that I finally get to do now?
probably
like,
not. Let's be honest. You have you have a boy and a girl. You're done.
And that too, I'm like, well, I'm not missing out on anything necessarily, but I don't know. At the same time, I'm like, if I was like maybe in like the perfect or right relationship or whatever, I mean, that could change. Who knows?
So you're open to it.
Yeah, I guess.
Kind of. Yeah, right.
But then I'm like, I'm no spring chicken anymore
Yeah,
either.
right.
So I'm like,
Right.
But
Don't let the looks fool you. You know what I mean?
But also, I feel like in my past, and maybe this is part of that whole like kind of like addict mentality. I feel like in the past, I've always like kind of like rushed relationships and things like that because you're just like in that total extremes,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, if I was to be in a relationship, like I would want to like at least spend like a year or two like traveling and like doing all of these things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm already 36 and I'm still single. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Have a baby at 40? Like, I don't know if I want to do that either. So
Yeah, it would almost be a rush situation, I guess,
Right.
because it's easier for guys, obviously,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm old as fuck and having babies, so
yeah.
I'm grateful for it. Like I what I was gonna say to you is like I had a kid when I was 23 too, and I lost her to my addiction, which was, to say how bad my disease was,
Yeah.
and now like rebuilding that relationship is just extremely hard,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, being a dad in my 40s, like, oh my God, like I'm so grateful because I'm able to be like the best version of myself for the kids,
Yeah.
because I wasn't ever. I mean,
Yeah.
at 34 years old, I was still a fuckhead,
Yeah.
when I first got clean. But anyways, yeah, kids are fucking just fantastic. I look at my son and I'm like, God damn. And now my daughter, so she just turned 1 and she's starting to get a little personality too, So I'm
Yeah.
like, man, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful every day to be able to experience it.
Yeah.
Like I quit my job and I just do this full time now. So I screen print too, and so like I'm at home and I'm able to like be with my family.
That's the best.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's super hard.
Yeah.
Like being a sole provider and shit, and just like, come on, LFG, like, give me some money, baby. It's
Yeah.
really hard. It's like, I was just talking to somebody that's going to be at that show February 15th. But I was just telling him, I'm like, dude, I'm like a duck, like just cruising on the surface, but paddling like a motherfucker in the water, just trying to make things work and happen. But I think, once you have like some entrepreneur spirit, like that's just what you do, man.
Yeah.
Like you literally have done that your probably entire career too.
Yeah.
Of just figuring shit out. What are you doing? What are you doing in school?
Drug and alcohol studies.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit. Do you want to become a counselor or something?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm actually, when I first went to college, I was originally a psych major. And so I was working on that. And I was kind of more geared towards doing something in business. And then that all kind of went to hell in a handbasket because I moved to LA and kind of just pissed off my whole like college career at that point.
Right.
So, we're kind of like one step forward,
Sure.
3 steps back. But, yeah, so I'm doing that and then finishing up like my psychology stuff too. So eventually I would like to work private, but
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's going to take some time, but
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
you have plenty of it,
Yeah.
As long as you, don't meet some hot rod that wants to have a couple babies real
Yeah,
quick,
no,
you know
no,
what I mean? You'll be all right. You can
I
just
have
keep
no
doing
time
you.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what's neat.
Yeah.
Like you were just saying, you raise kids. How difficult was it though to do that? Like when you're 24, having baby and not having support. Did you have family support or was it really just you?
I mean, a little. I mean, I had like some financial support from like my mom, but I mean, my mom's a surgeon, and so I mean, she's retired now, but at the time, like, I mean, she was constantly on call or like in the hospital or whatever. So I didn't have like, hey, could you watch my kid? Like, I never
Yeah.
had that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so just like it was rough. It was rough because I was trying to deal with my own like personal issues at the time, and then also dealing with being a single parent and like trying to grow up myself, and then working full time, and then trying to support myself and a baby and pay for rent and daycare and like all of these things. And I barely made it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, obviously my life is very different now, but I'm like, but it's kind of like you were saying. It's like I kind of feel like I've always been like that. Like my childhood wasn't necessarily like the easiest, and so I think some people you either just have that like hustler mentality or you don't, and I don't think you could teach that to people.
Definitely not. There's
it's
no
just-
way that you do.
Yeah. So I think I'm just kind of one of those people that like thrives under pressure and
Right.
like chaos, and I don't know.
You definitely
I
have the
just-
same traits as I do too.
Yeah.
Like I thrive off that, like deadlines, like
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
cool. Like, but
I'll make it
but I
happen.
procrastinate.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? But I'm going to make sure it's done when I
Yeah.
say it's going to be done.
yeah, on my time.
I wish, yeah, dude, I wish there's so many days where I'm like, man, I wish my time management would be better, you know?
Yeah.
But I thrive. Like I just will get it done. I'll stay up until midnight finishing whatever I have to do, you know? But yeah, being a single parent, like I said, even not even necessarily just for women, but just any single parent is super hard because if you're not having that support system, it's super easy just to, I mean, I don't even know, fall back into some shit that you probably would regret or something, you know?
Yeah. Well, for me at the time, it was so normal. But then, you know, when I had my daughter, when I was with her dad, I was a stay-at-home mom with her. And so during that time, I was like, wow, like I really realized how much I missed out on with my son because I was working full time. And then by the time I would pick him up, I had like, okay, cool, I got a few hours, then I got to go to bed because I got to go to work the next day.
Yeah,
And then like
yeah.
with my daughter, I was home with her 24/7 up until fairly recently, like recent years. And so getting to experience both ways, you're just like, yeah.
There's
So-
probably nothing better than being at home with your kids,
Oh,
right?
it's the best
Right.
thing ever. Yeah.
Question, just because I know that there's been women that have gone through it. Did you have any like depression or anything with?
No.
I've
No, I got
experienced.
lucky with
Yeah,
that,
I've experienced it, and it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like the hormones and the things that women go through when during pregnancy or after. I'm like,
God.
fucking wild.
Yeah. That's another reason I'm like, I don't know if I want any more kids because I don't know if I want to go through.
Like I'm like might be
pregnancy
tapped
and,
out. Like I had two good ones. Like I didn't get too
Yeah.
nuts. You know.
Well, and that's another thing too. So, my mom, because my mom's an OBGYN, and she would always tell me, she's like, you don't even understand like how lucky you are that your kids came out like normal and healthy, and like how grateful you should be that happened to you twice and
Right.
not just like once, because there's so many like high risk pregnancies she would deal with and things like that, and you don't really think about it, you know. But that first like trimester, you think of all the things that could go wrong, right? And you're like, oh, but yeah. So that's
So
another
much
thing
fear.
too. Well, and the older you get, the more risks there are for those complications and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's always kind of like
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of those
You
things
should
where
just
you're like,
tap it out. You know what I mean? Like
just tie it up,
it's like we're done, dude. Like
wrap it up.
yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll see.
Well, just date an older guy that's not going to give a shit about having kids. You know what I mean? That's all. That's all you
I
have
don't know.
to
I did
focus
that.
on.
It didn't really work out for me. I've tried that.
Yeah,
I've tried
right.
that. I've tried older. I've tried younger.
I've tried them all, dude.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
running
try-
out of options here.
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna. Have
Yeah, I'm
to-
just going to stay single. Fuck y'all.
Yeah, yeah. I don't mind it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, fuck it.
yeah.
If you don't need to be with a man, then you don't.
Oh, I definitely
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have your own shit together. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, who gives a fuck?
Well, yeah, and then I'm like, I don't even have time to like deal with anybody else's
Yeah.
shit, to be honest.
And
like,
most people in relationships are very needy. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
speaking for myself. You know, so it's hard. You know, you just you want attention and stuff, and you just have to find the right person that's not going to really demand that from you.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and the older you get, like the more your patience and your tolerance for things like becomes smaller and smaller, and so like you'll meet someone, you interact with them, and you're like, nope, not dealing with that. Like,
Right.
I'm good. Bye.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, being aware of stuff is like the greatest gift.
Yeah.
Before, you know, like I would just minimize so many things, be like, it's okay.
Oh yeah.
I do that too.
Love
You
red
know what I mean?
flags.
Yeah, right. That's okay. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, this episode is brought to you by Rosie and Red Flags.
Yeah. I am a big fan of red flags, unfortunately, which is a big part of my problem.
Yeah, but it's
But-
who gives a shit though?
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have those, and then you'd just be in some awful relationship, which, you know, obviously you weren't with your son's dad. You know what I mean? That turned out to
Yeah.
not be great. So
Yeah. But then it also goes back to that whole like kind of like addict mentality. You know, you're like you love the chaos and like
Yeah,
the
for
challenges
sure,
of
for
it
sure.
and the toxicity. And
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
oh, this is so awesome, you know? And it's like the worst thing
Dude,
ever
we're
for
so
you.
fucked up
you
in the
know?
head.
Yeah. So Yeah, I think like at this stage of my life, I'm just so focused on just like healing all of the things that I am aware of that I need to work on, and just like focusing on myself and like the things that I need to do, and like just being present for my kids and for myself ultimately.
Right.
And, you know, if something happens during that time, cool, whatever. If it
Yeah, and
doesn't,
you're not
like,
out there. Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
not out there
crying
reaching
over
for.
it at night.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, it's cool because you're doing all these things for yourself. Like becoming a counselor and saving people's lives.
Yeah.
You're going to get so much reward from that. You know, I mean, with recovery too, it's like, you know, not that many people are recovered, you know, or getting recovery, and they need counseling or they need some guidance and stuff. But it just sucks because in this sort of industry, right, if you want to call it, it's really tough because people just die now, you know?
Yeah.
The fentanyl pandemic is so incredibly big.
It's funny too, though. Like in doing classes, how much of it is kind of like free therapy, you know,
Yeah.
because you're learning about like co-occurring disorders and all of these things, and you start learning so much about yourself. And I mean, if you've gone through like a program or your 12 steps or anything like that, a lot of it is kind of like you're like, oh wow, like I already did this, you know.
Sure.
And so it gives you a lot more insight. But it's actually interesting to see how many people are in that program that are recovered addicts themselves.
Yeah, most people that I've met, it's always like a kind of a joke, you know, like, oh, like I'm 6 months clean, I'm gonna become a counselor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's great, you know.
Yeah.
It's really sad to see though, too, is so people do that and then they stop doing the work on themselves.
Yeah.
You know, like 12 steps is very important, sponsorship is very important, fellowship, all those things are very important. If you stop doing that and you're just focusing on the recovery aspect of
Yeah.
it to teach stuff that you really don't know, like you can't, there's a lot of stuff you just have to go through in life too, and getting clean.
I was actually just talking to somebody about that the other night, because I think there's so many people who they get sober and they get like the clean time, but they're not doing the inside work to like fix what's going on in your head, which is the primary issue.
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, I've been clean, 90 days or whatever, but I've done absolutely nothing to work on myself. And it's just like a relapse waiting to happen.
For sure.
So that's always like interesting to see.
Yeah.
I kind of did like the AA thing for a while. I had a time where I was sober for like a little over 2 years, and I wasn't doing like AA during that time. I had done a 12-step program like prior to that before. So I'd kind of just like had taken some of that with me into that time period. But it's interesting to see like how different everyone's like journey on sobriety is, and like different strokes for different folks kind of deal. But
well, I know it's we try to like, we think that we're so different, but we're all the same. We just have different characteristics and we do different things.
Yeah.
You know, react out in different ways, right? It's called being a human, but we're just identifying those problems, you know? But I mean, listen, like I said, I'm almost at 10 years clean. Like there's stuff that I still need to work on yesterday, right? So it's an ongoing thing. And a lot of people stop doing that, where they stop talking about recovery, you know, because they think they're cured and they're normal, you know?
Accountability is the hardest part.
Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. So, but it is sad to see, you know, when I see really great people in the rooms, you know, and then they revert back to like old behaviors, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. When I tell my sponsees, it's like really important for me, and like what my sponsor taught me somewhat, but this is just like my own personal thing, because when I was out there using, like I was like unlovable. I was unable to be in a healthy relationship. I cheated on significant others. I constantly sought validation through everything, you know, in the world. And like when I work steps with guys, it's like, we're going to become men now, and we're not going to cheat on our wives. We're not going to, you know, we're going to always do the right thing when nobody's looking. And I mean, but the most important part, and this is like, goes back to me, is like, you're not going to be that guy that's going to seek validation from somebody else. If you don't want to be with somebody, just break up with them, because your life is going to be fucking hell. Like cheating on somebody, which I've done, is like the worst thing that you can possibly do to somebody. And then when it's done to you, you're like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think that's also part of why I kind of treat relationships the way that I do now. Like, not necessarily just like romantic ones, but even like friendships or anything like that. And I think going through sobriety like played a big role in that, just because you have to learn to be accountable for yourself and your actions and the things that you do on a your daily inventory and all of those things. And so when I'm around people who can't be honest or can't be accountable or things like that, I'm like, I can't even have it around me, because then it's like, it just constantly puts you at risk dealing with people like that too, you know? So working on myself so much, being around people who are not like that, I'm like,
yeah. So the whole awareness thing too, right? Like you can spot it right away. And a lot of stuff, there's a saying like you spot it because you got it. And that happens to me often, you know what I mean? To where I even check myself, but it's so funny seeing people's behaviors and friendships, right?
Yeah.
So you can be friends with somebody for a very long time and like minimize the things that they do, even though deep down inside you're like, you're not a fucking good person.
Ignoring the red flags.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then it comes like with me. So I was never really good at that. Like confrontation. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Chaos. Cool. I'm cool with that too. But like inner feelings of like, hey, Rosie, that really hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Very difficult for me. Like I'd much rather like blow you off and be a fucking asshole, because then it's like you're going to come to me and be like, what the fuck,
Yeah.
So I struggle.
Let me tell you.
Yeah. I struggle with that still, you know what I mean? But it's such a, what I'm getting at is like finally being able to like set boundaries with myself and having those fucked up relationships and just being okay with not having them. Like that's been such a huge thing. And it took me so long to be like, I don't need to dislike them or talk bad about them, even though that I struggle with it. Like I'm definitely not perfect, but to not put myself in that position, dude, it's such a fucking blessing. Like I don't care what they do.
Yeah.
Just don't do it around me.
That's how I finally got out of my relationship with my daughter's dad, because I was sober and I'd like finally learned how to set boundaries for myself. And I was like, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And so I was like, bye.
Yeah.
And it made it so much easier because I didn't feel guilty about it. I didn't, I was like, no, I'm doing this for myself. And like, this is what I have to do. And I have to like learn to create and establish boundaries with other people, and I felt so much more confident about doing it.
Yeah.
And it changed entirely even how I interact with people. Like I feel like before I used to be so much more reserved and like shy, and like I don't know, it just completely changed just how I deal with people in general, to be honest.
Yeah. When I was like using, and even like after, it was like so difficult for me to look at somebody in the eye. Like I was just like so shamed.
Yeah.
Like it's such a awful feeling when when you can't look in somebody in the eye and like have a conversation with them. Like you're like looking at the forehead and fucking, looking around or something. Yeah, it's fucking brutal. I think that's really cool, man. Like your story. I mean, we didn't really like dig too much into it, but I think this is what's so neat about podcasts, especially for like people that follow you. Like they have no idea about Rosie. They just, see beautiful pictures on Instagram. I don't know. Do you have a personal page too, or the only one that I know of?
I mean, I have one that I have for just like family and friend, like.
Well, those people probably know who you are. You know what I mean? But I think it's cool because you get to know who you are and like some of the stuff that you've been through. Right?
That's the whole problem with social media in general. I mean, it's so easy to go online and, just naturally we put together a perception of what we see, and it's
totally,
just, so far off from,
I know. And being in your position too, I bet you've had some pretty bad experiences.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like I've kind of always gotten that a lot. And then I feel like once people have a conversation with me, it's like way different.
Why do you think that? The pretty girl thing?
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Me and Beezy have that same problem all the time. You know what I mean?
Or I don't know. Everyone's always like, "Oh, you look like you'd be such a bitch." Like,
Right.
But I'm like, well, I'm so chill. What do you mean? Like,
Right.
And I'm like,
Well,
it's just
some
my
of us
face.
just have that resting face, you know?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Just have a conversation.
Yeah.
Find out.
I'm like, I'm serious, but I'm fun.
Yeah, dude, I know.
It's seriously fun.
I know. Well, that's what, like I said to you this morning before we got started, I thought you were funny because when I asked you, I'm like, hey, was that you that took photos with Josh, right? What Josh is my homie.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that was me or whatever. And I start walking away and you're like, that's it? And I'm like, I like you. That's fucking awesome, dude. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Good, bad, what, motherfucker?
I'm like, okay. I'm all, and?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. How did you meet Joshua?
Oh my God, how did I meet Josh? I met
Just because he's a fucking phenomenal photographer and buy a fucking camera because I know you watch the show too, prick.
Just from like going to events and things like that, and just meeting different people and yeah. And then I had friends that were like in the scene too, so it kind of all just meshed together over time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he's a fantastic human being. He's super talented.
Yeah.
Too. Like I just bought a camera recently and it's really fucking difficult.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a ton of work
and editing.
Dude, it's so I'm able to get it on my phone and do all the cool shit, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like
iPhone photographer.
Exactly. Well, no, it's an actual camera. Okay, it's a fucking cheap Canon. Okay. But
it's Canon Rebel or what?
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Give me some, dog. Yeah. I'm out here. You know what I mean? Pretty soon it's gonna be LFG photography. No, I'm just kidding.
Start somewhere.
But I was able to. Yeah, exactly. I was able to get like some photos from watching these guys do some stunt shit. And then they used it. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's my picture. You know what I mean? But I looked at how many pictures I took and I'm like, holy shit, I have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, try being a chick.
Super difficult. And then it's like, I mean, now that I've been like doing podcast things, right? Because I used to question people like, how much though? What? You're going to charge how much? And now I like, fuck, I feel bad for thinking about that because there's so much that go into it.
Yeah.
Editing and just photography, going to places, doing podcasts. Like it's fucking a lot. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so many
coming from my background, like I understand that because I know how much is involved. So I'm like, I totally respect it. Like I'm like, I get it. You know? But
some prices are too high. I don't give a fuck. I'll still say it.
That's true.
Fuck it.
I saw your page. It wasn't that good.
So if somebody approached you, and I mean you don't have to say like prices, but do you charge for some of the stuff that you do?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You're not
100%.
You're not a person to be like, oh yeah, you're cool. Like I'll take some photos for you.
Well, and so that's another thing that's kind of funny too is because a lot of people don't know that I've been in this industry as long as I have, and so they don't necessarily know like all of the things that I've done. So for me, I'm like, it's not just my time. It's like it's my experience and the time that I've put into so many different industries over the years, and like but. Yeah,
you're a fucking seasoned veteran.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You've been around before Instagram, dog. Like, don't trip, homie.
Yeah, the very beginning of it. Yeah. When
check out my MySpace.
Like blue box.
Yeah. Check out my MySpace, dog. Don't trip. But you know what? I think that's cool because but there is a price to everything, and then nowadays too, it's like people are trying to get deals and stuff, which is nice. You know, I'm guilty of that too. But man, when you're actually doing good quality work, it's really hard to be like, okay, well, this is what a price is, you know?
Yeah.
Do you have people hit you up on a regular basis to do that though?
Yeah.
On the low or something, or
yeah. I mean, I am pretty like selective about what I do. Only because obviously it has to make sense for me. I'm not trying to like just do something just to do it.
Yeah.
I want it to be something that like people are going to actually respond to, or something that I actually am interested in.
Sure.
And I've always been like that. I've always been very like, it has to be something that I really want to do.
Yeah.
I'm like,
have you been taken to like cool places, like destinations or anything that like stands out?
Not anything like super sick. I've been like out of the country or anything crazy like that, but
like another state or no?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've traveled. I've Miami and Oregon and things like that.
Sick.
And, But
That's cool. You're like exposing yourself to those cool things.
yeah.
Was that after your son was born too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So is that when it started, basically,
Yeah,
after
pretty
that?
much.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like right about the time he was born was when I started getting into the tattoo industry.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a lot of tattoos?
Yeah.
So were you like a cover model for them? Yeah, I saw a while ago too. I don't know if they still do it, but it was like, because like friends would be like, hey, vote for me. You know what I'm saying?
I've
Like
done
a tattoo.
stuff for like Inked Magazine and Inked Girls and stuff like that. And like their website and
Like magazine stuff too. So you've been in magazines?
yeah,
That's fucking cool.
Music videos. I mean, I've done it all.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Music videos?
It was cool because
Some fucking Poison brother or what, dude?
No. I've probably the sickest one I've ever done was a dancing video. So that was
Sick.
like a bucket list moment
Right.
for me for
For
sure.
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I've been around the block a few times.
That's
yeah.
cool for your kids though too. You know what I mean? To be like I did something that was cool,
and like
right?
show them like little magazines and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, come here.
But now it's like everything's so oversaturated. So it's like back then it was like cool, you know, because
Totally.
not everybody got to do all of that stuff. And now it's like everyone and their mom does it. So, or everyone's like an Instagram model or whatever. And I'm like, no, I've been doing this for a long time.
There's so many things too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like clothing brands. It's like, man, I'm so grateful that, you know, I have a little bit what I have, you know, because it's so difficult. And I've seen so many, I'm sure you've seen the same thing. Like I've seen people on Instagram, like start something and then just it fizzles out, you know, podcast fizzles out.
Shit, I've done it, you know, like you just put something out there and hope it sticks. And then it doesn't always because everything's so oversaturated and you just got to like find your little niche, I guess.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. 2020 is when I started. And how it really happened was COVID. Like everybody talks shit about COVID. I'm like, fucking COVID was cool for LFG.
Yeah.
You know, people were like locked in. We were doing some cool shit. And it was like kind of like fuck government in a sense. You know what I mean? We never had a shirt that said that, but you know, let's fucking go. And so it was, you know, people were just online shopping and then riding motorcycles. There wasn't anybody on the road. Like we were able to do some sick promo videos. Like it was dope. Yeah. You know, but for some people it was not. So it's a crazy, crazy fucking time. Can you imagine 5 years ago was COVID? That's fucking bonkers to think about wearing masks everywhere and distance. Like we wouldn't even be able to do this without getting in
Just
trouble.
thinking about the fact that 5 years has already passed already stresses me out.
Dude, you're not kidding me. I just turned 44 3 days ago, bro. Like, trust me, I'm still feeling it. Like, how in the fuck?
30 was like bad, and then 35 came around, and I was like, oh. And then
The
I
worst.
turned 36, and I was like, God, it keeps getting worse.
And I can promise you, though, so like there was like a couple like really like 21 badass, like I'm able to drink alcohol, right? Yeah. Although I was already fucking doing it. And 30 was like, okay, cool, you know, like dirty 30. I'm 30 years old. It was really a bad time in my life still. But when I hit 40, I don't know, man. It was like different. This is what I was gonna say. So I don't know about this happened to you. When I turned 30, like foods and just the way I thought was different. You know, like foods that I hated as a kid, like I was like, oh, okay, let me try it. And I was interested in it. And I talked to a lot of people too. They have that kind of same feeling, you know. But when I turned 40, it was almost like, even though I'm super immature, I felt mature. But I'm like, 44, dude? I'm going to be 45? What in the fuck happened?
It's such a double-edged sword, though, because I hate the idea of getting older, but then I think back on when I was younger, and I'm like, well, in my 30s, I'm like, I'm really like in my prime right now. I'm like, I look the best I've ever looked. I feel the best I've ever felt. I'm more mentally evolved. I know what I'm doing with my life. You know, I have like my own house and all these things that I didn't have before. Yeah. So I just feel in so much more of like a better life position, I guess you could say. But obviously the idea of getting older is not exciting. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like this is the best.
Yeah, me too.
Best time of my life for sure.
Yeah, I mean, looking at yourself in the mirror, you're like, woof, you know, like some days I'm like that. But to your point too, it's such a great feeling to have things finally, you know, especially when you didn't have anything. Yeah. 24 years old with a kid on your hip, you know what I mean? not.
Well, yeah, you're like, oh, it'd be great to be 25, but then you think about
Yeah,
all
it was
the things
miserable.
I didn't know when I was 25, right? And
A
you're
lot of
like,
wreckage, friend.
Yeah. So I'm like, I would so much rather be in this position than,
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that's awesome. Listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'm glad that I was able to do it. Like, get into, I'm gonna be here doing podcasts, so getting to know people that are working here, and this has been a great show. Like, people, like I said, people will be able to tune in and then see you on Instagram and then find out your story a little bit.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thanks so
me.
much.
Yeah.